Namaste friends. We are currently in the middle of a Sun-Saturn conjunction. I will explain what it is, what the significance is astrologically as well as based on the mythological story about Sun and Saturn, and then I will suggest some prayers that people can do in case they are experiencing some problems because of this transit. So what is Sun-Saturn conjunction? Conjunction means being together. So Sun-Saturn conjunction is Sun and Saturn being closely together. If they are within 8 degrees, that is basically a close conjunction. In Sanskrita, we also call it Ravi Shani Yuti. And this is a problematic transit. I will show you why later. But the thing is, we don't want to sensationalize this. This happens once every year. So this is not a very rare event. But still, during that time, countries can experience some problems, as well as some individuals with certain combinations in their horoscopes can experience some unpleasant events or disturbances in their lives. So there's no harm in being extra cautious during such a time and doing some extra prayers. And this year, this happens from January 26 till February 12. And the perfect conjunction happened on February 4th. Yesterday is when the perfect conjunction happened. But the thing is, the whole period is conducive to problems. It is not necessarily the exact date of perfect conjunction. Now, what is the meaning of this? We have to see what Sun and Saturn show in astrology to understand this. Sun is a personification of soul, the Atma within us. He's the representation of the divine within all beings, spread across all beings. And he stands for ego, he stands for self-esteem, he stands for confidence, vitality. Also, Sun shows kings and people in authority. Saturn, on the other hand, he is the opposite. He is a personification of the spirit of hard work within us. He stands for discipline, austerity, patience, persistence, humility, etc. And also he shows the downtrodden, poor, underprivileged people in a society. So you can see that Sun and Saturn are basically almost like opposites. So when they come together, those opposing forces can come together and that can cause a problem. So Sun-Saturn conjunctions bring these opposite forces together. It can trigger complex conflicts, internal within people as well as external. Internationally, globally, in terms of geopolitics, it can bring some political intrigue in the world. It can also bring some class clashes and weird political developments, things that are really strange. There is also a danger to powerful people, possibly during such periods. Again, like I said, this happens every year once, so take it with a pinch of salt. But the thing is, it is a problematic transit. For example, last year, I believe during this time, Donald Trump was impeached. He had his second impeachment during this transit, as well as the farmers' protest caused a lot of problems to Narendra Modi ji during this period. And there were a few other events, but every year when this happens, you will see some disturbances in the world. But don't expect something really, really crazy. But the thing is, there's no harm in being extra cautious. And individually, if the conjunction occurs in some sensitive houses in somebody's horoscope, then there can be some health problems or other physical problems or mental problems, anxiety, or some kind of crisis in confidence, because Saturn he shows diffidence and Sun shows confidence. So there can be a crisis in confidence, etc. So if for the last week or so, if somebody is experiencing some problems, it may be because of this, because of Sun-Saturn conjunction. So I will suggest some remedies later. But like I said earlier, this conjunction can trigger sensitive points in some charts, and there can be problems, health problems and crisis in confidence, etc. Before I suggest some remedies, it will be actually fun to see the Puranic story associated with Sun and Saturn and see what it actually means. Like I keep saying, the stories in Puranas are metaphors for things that unfold within us at various points of time. So various gods or personifications of various good qualities within us. Various demons or asuras are personifications of various weaknesses within us, etc. And the stories are nice expressions of some absolute truths. For example, let us look at the story of Surya. Sani, for those who are not aware, is actually the son, S-O-N, son of Sun, S-U-N, Sun. He's the child of Sun. So let us understand the story. The story is Surya's wife is Sanja, and they both loved each other, but there was a period when Sanja was really scared of Surya because Surya was so bright and so hot. So that brilliant light and heat kind of troubled Sanja. So she wanted to be away from sun for a while. So Sanja left Surya, but she didn't want Surya to know that. So she was scared to tell Surya about that. So she asked Chaya, her servant maid, to pretend to be her. So Chaya took the form of Sanja. She looked like Sanja, and she pretended to be Sanja with Surya. While Sanja was gone, she went home, went to her parents' home for a long time. So during that period, Surya and Chaya had a union, and Sani was born to Chaya. So that way, Sani is the son of Surya. So let us understand what this means. Surya, like I said, he is the Atma. He is basically, Surya stands for the Atma Gnana, understanding your true self. He is the true self, the Atman or Brahman. So realizing that you are Atman, you are that, is what Surya represents. And Sanja literally means dawn. Actually, the real meaning is junction between two things. But typically the main meaning of Sanja is the junction between night and day. Night is about to finish and day is about to come. So that period is Sanja. So it is basically the transition state between not realizing your true self and realizing your true self. Night is basically symbolic of being in darkness, not realizing your true nature and going through life, going through various wants, etc., likes, dislikes, etc. And daylight, when sun is bright, is basically being aware that you are self. So the transition period is represented by Sanja. And Sanja being scared of Surya means during that, when somebody is doing sadhana and about to realize self, during that period, one gets scared of self-realization. It is too hot and too bright to handle. So, for example, when some sadhaka is about to experience self, it may be so scary. So, he may, because normally we identify with a body, we think that I am the body. When suppose something happens that shakes your understanding that you are the body, makes you understand that you are the whole world, it may actually be very troubling or very disturbing when somebody is not fully ready. So when somebody is not fully ready, being scared of the actual realization, even though theoretically it is so nice to say, oh, all is self, but the thing is, once the base on which your whole existence is based, this body, etc., this body-mind complex is taken away from you, or it seems to be being taken away, it is not easy to handle. So that is what Sanja being scared of Surya represents. And then Chaya literally means shadow, basically lack of light. When is there a shadow? When light doesn't reach a particular place, there is a shadow there. So Chaya represents darkness. Even when there is light, there is darkness basically, because there is a place that the light doesn't reach. So it is basically, you are not realized, you pretend to be realized, and you basically you have theoretical knowledge, but you don't have realization of self. Basically, self-realization is totally away from you. That state is Chaya. And then when the state and Surya, who stands for self, have a union, a child is born with the qualities of both. So the child is in darkness, but at the same time there is a quality of self in the child. So that is why Sani personifies a state of detachment, a state of humility, where you basically you serve everybody. You don't distinguish between the rich and poor. You are serving everybody, and you basically do it very patiently, and you at the same time you don't realize that you are self. You basically, you think that you need to work hard, you need to do lot of sadhana, you need to serve people in order to realize self. So there is some ignorance to the state, as well as you are serving everybody selflessly. So basically that is another aspect of self. So that quality is also, that positive quality is also there. So that is what Sani really represents, patiently serving everybody, and Surya is just knowing that you are self. Now let me suggest some remedies, the best remedies. Of course, any prayer of Surya and any prayer of Sani can be done during this period. Of course, it can be done any time, but particularly during this period, during these couple of weeks, it is a good. It is really good to worship Surya and Sani, so that any problems in your horoscope are kind of relieved. By the way, who can have problems? Suppose you're right now, this conjunction is occurring in Makara Rasi. So if your Janma Rasi is, let's say, Makara, or your Janma Rasi is Kumbha when these are in the 12th house, or your Janma Rasi is Mithuna where these planets are in the 8th house, then there can be problems. Similarly, if Lagna is in those houses, then there can be problems. Similarly, if in one of your important divisional charts, like Dasyamsa, let us say Lagna is in Gemini, then basically this is in the 8th house. If you take the famous American football player Tom Brady, his Dasyamsa has Gemini Lagna, so this occurs in the 8th house. So on February 1st or 2nd, he announced retirement after a 22-year illustrious career. So 8th house can show retirement. It can also show trouble. So somebody else with Gemini Lagna in Dasyamsa can have some disturbances in career. Like this, if for example in Navamsa this occurs in 7th house or 6th house or 8th house or Lagna, then there can be a lot of quarrels in marital life, etc. So lot of different results are possible. I don't want to list out the results because it really depends on your horoscope, and moreover your annual charts and other transits, your dasha, antardasha, etc. also have a modifying influence. So it is very difficult to give a thumb rule, but in general, if for the last couple of weeks you are seeing something, it may be related to this. In that case, I strongly recommend praying to Surya and Sani. You can use any prayer, any mantra, but the best is Aditya Hridayam. This was taught by Maharshi Agastya to Lord Rama before he was going to fight Ravana. This gives victory over your enemies. So Aditya Hridayam is one useful prayer. The other is Sani's Ashtottara Satanama Stotram, which is 108 name prayer. So these two are really strongly recommended. Actually, I will chant them a little later, so that even if you don't know how to chant them, you don't have the text, I will actually give you a pointer to the text, but you can just listen to me. Instead of chanting yourself, you can listen. You can play this video and listen to it, because Shastras say that listening to something is as effective as chanting something. As a matter of fact, if somebody is chanting something but not really with focus, on the other hand, if somebody else is not chanting but just listening with attention, the latter may get more result, a better result. So it is important to basically focus your mind on it. Whether you are chanting or whether you are listening, putting your mind on it is really important. And if you understand the meaning, it is great. But even if you don't understand the meaning, these prayers do have certain energy in them, so it is still effective. And some people may ask, should I worship only, can I worship only Surya or Sani? It is good to worship both, but you can worship only one of them. And who should you worship? Whoever you feel like. If one of them is good for you, worshipping them may increase the good qualities. If one of them is bad for you, worshipping him may decrease the bad qualities. So irrespective of who's good for you, who's bad for you, worshipping either is only beneficial. So I don't want to give any thumb rules. You can worship either of those, whichever prayer you find attractive, because that is the main thing. If a particular prayer is interesting to you, if it is attractive to you, if your mind gets drawn to it, then there is a good chance that it will work for you better. So that is a better criterion than all other technical criteria. So you can do either of these or both of these. I will actually chant them little later. But for those who want to chant themselves and want a shorter prayer, not a really long prayer with many verses, just the simple shlokas given by Vyasa Maharshi are good enough from the Navagraha Stotram. For Surya, the shloka is this: ॐ जपाकुसुमसङ्काशं काश्यपेयं महाद्युतिं तमोरिं सर्वपापघ्नं प्रणतोऽस्मि दिवाकरम्. For Sani, it is Om Neelanjanasamaabhasam Raviputram Yamagrajam Chaya Sambhutam Tam Namami Shanaishcharam. So these are very simple. So you can chant these how many times? Well, if you just chant once, it may not be enough. I suggest at least 10-15 minutes allocate to this. Put an alarm, and how many hour times you can chant during that time, chant it. At least 15 minutes is recommended. Otherwise, nothing will really be effective. Now, and of course, the longer the better. But the more important thing is, instead of doing for a long time without focus, doing for just 10-15 minutes with focus is better. Now the longer one, let me show you where to find the text. You can search online for Aditya Hridayam and find it. But let me show you one simple way. You can go to VedicAstrologer.org, my website. And if you go there and you click on spirituality and mantras, you will see Aditya Hridayam in Telugu, English, Devanagari. So I'll click Devanagari script here, the Hindi script, so that people can read. I will just chant it. You can listen to it. You can put the video at this part if you want to listen to Aditya Hridayam, and you can chant along or just listen later. Om Tato Yuddha Parisrantam Samare Chintaya Sthitam Ravanam Chagrato Drashtva Yuddhaya Samupasthitam Daivataischa Samagamya Drashtumabhyagato Ranam Upagamya Bravidramam Agastyo Bhagavan Rishihi Rama Rama Mahabaho Sranaguhyam Sanatanam Yena Sarvanarin Vatsa Samare Vijayishyasi Aditya Hridayam Punyam Sarvasatru Vinashanam Jayavaham Jape Nityam Akshayam Paramam Shivam Sarvamangala Mangalyam Sarvapapa Pranashanam Chinta Shoka Prasamanam Ayurvardhanamuttamam Rashmimantam Samujyantam Devasura Namaskritam Pujayasva Vivasvantam Bhaskaram Bhuvaneshwaram Sarvadevatmako Yesha Tejasvi Rasmi Bhavanah Yesha Devasura Ganan Lokan Patigabhasthibihi Yesha Brahma cha Vishnuscha Sivaskandah Prajapatihi Mahendro Dhanadah Kalo Yamasomo Yapampatihi Petaro Vasavassadhya Yashvino Maruto Manuh Vayurvahni Praja Prana Ritakarta Prabhakarah Aditya Savita Surya Kaga Pusha Gabhastiman Suvarna Sadrisho Bhanu Svarna Reta Divakarah Haridashva Sahasrarchi Sapta Saptir Marichiman Timiron Mathanasambhustvastan Timiron Mathanasambhustvasta Martand Anshuman. I'll read this shloka again. Haridashva Sahasrarchi Sapta Saptir Marichiman Timiron Mathanasambhustvasta Martand Anshuman Hiranyagarbhasisirastapano Bhaskaro Ravihi Agnigarbhodite Putraha Sankhasisiranasanah Vyomanathastamo Bhedi Rugyadusamaparagah Ghanavristirapam Mitro Vindhavithi Plavangamah Atapi Mandali Mrityuh Pingalas Sarvatapanah Kavir Vishwa Mahateja Raktas Sarvabhavodbhavah Nakshatragrahataranam Adhipo Vishwabhavanah Tejasamapi Tejasvi Dvadasatman Namostute Namah Purvaya Garye Namah Purvaya Garye Paschime Garye Namah Jyotirgananam Pataye Dinadhipataye Namah Jayaya Jaya Bhadraya Harya Shivaya Namo Namah Namo Namah Sahasransho Adityaya Namo Namah Nama Ugraya Viraya Sarangaya Namo Namah Namah Padma Prabodhaya Namah Padma Prabodhaya Martandaya Namo Namah Brahmeshanaच्युतेशाय सूर्याय आदित्यवर्चसे भास्वते सर्वभक्षाय रौद्राय वपुषे नमः तमोघ्नाय हिमघ्नाय शत्रुघ्नाय अमितात्मने कृतघ्नघ्नाय देवाय ज्योतिषां पतये नमः तप्तचामीकराभाय वह्नये विश्वकर्मणे नमस्तमोभिनिघ्नाय रुचये लोकसाक्षिणे नाशयत्येष वैभूतं तदेव सृजति प्रभु पायत्येष तपत्येष वर्षत्येष गभस्थिभिः येष सुप्तेषु जागर्ति भूतेषु परिनिष्ठितः एष एवाग्निहोत्रं च फलं चैवाग्निहोत्रिणां वेदाश्चक्रतवश्चैव क्रतूनां फलमेव च यानि कृत्यानि लोकेषु सर्व एष रविः प्रभुः येन मापत्सृकृच्छ्रेषु कान्तारेषु भयेषु च कीर्तयन् पुरुषः कश्चिन्नावसीदति राघव पूजयस्वैनमेकाग्रो देवदेवं जगत्पतिं एतत् त्रिगुणितं जप्त्वा युद्धेषु विजयिष्यसि अस्मिन् क्षणे महाबाहो रावणं त्वं वधिष्यसि एवमुक्त्वा तदागस्त्यो जगाम च यथागतम् एतच्छ्रुत्वा महातेजा नष्टशोकोऽभवत्तदा धारयामास सुप्रीतो राघवः प्रयतात्मवान् आदित्यं प्रेक्ष्य जप्त्वा तु परं हर्षमवाप्तवान् त्रिराचं यशुचिर्भूत्वा धनुरादाय वीर्यवान् रावणं प्रेक्ष्य हृष्टात्मा युद्धाय समुपागमत् सर्वयत्नेन महता वधे तस्य धृतोऽभवत् अथ रविरवदन्निरीक्ष्य रामं मुदितमनः परमं प्रहर्ष्यमाणः निशिचरपतिसंशयं विदित्वा सुरगणमध्यगतो वचस्त्वरेति. If you read these 3 times before any important venture, especially when going to a competition or a fight, you will have success. That is what the Shastra says. Now let us see Sani Ashtotara Sahanama Stotram. For that, click on Homa, download the manuals. Go down to planetary deities, find Sani Homa, not the simplest or simple, but find the regular. I'll use the Sanskrit version. On the Devanagari script, search for 108 dash. Yeah. So for the main homa, for the main offering in the homa, I gave this option, Sani's 108 name prayer as an option. So just leave the swaha. Swaha is when you're doing in a homa. If you're just chanting as a prayer, just leave the swaha here. Okay. Again, this is a very powerful prayer of Sani, 108 name prayer. Actually, before that, let's read one more thing. Do I have the sloka version? Yeah, I do. This is another useful prayer, the 16 name prayer of Sani. Kornasyanaischaro mandah chaya hridayanandanah martanajasthatha saurih patangi grahanayakah abrahmanah krurakarma neelavastranjanajyutih krishno dharmanujasantah shukodarah varapradah. So this can also be chanted. Now let's read the 108 name prayer. Om Shanaishcharaya Santaya Sarvabhishtapradaine Saranyaya Varenyaya Sarveshaya Namo Namah Soumyaya Sarovanjaya Sarlokaviharine Sukhasanopavishtaya Sundaraya Namo Namah Ghanaya Ghanrupaya Ghanabharanadharine Ghanasaravilepaya Khajjotaya Namo Namah Mandaya Mandacheshtaya Mahaniya Gunatmane Martyapavanapadaya Maheshaya Namo Namah Chaya Putraya Sarvaya Saratuniradharine Charasthirasvabhavaya Chanchalaya Namo Namah Neelavarnaya Nityaya Neelanjananibhaya Cha Neelambara Vibhushaya Nischalaya Namo Namah Vedyaya Vidhirupaya Virodhadhara Bhumaye Vedaspadasvabhavaya Vajradehaya Te Namah Vairagyadaya Viraya Vitarogabhayaya Cha Vipatparampareshaya Vishwavanjaya Te Namah Gradhavahaya Gudhaya Kurmangaya Kurupine Kutsitaya Gunadhyaya Gocharaya Namo Namah Avidyamulanashaya Vidyaswarupine Ayushakaranaya Padurdhatre Namo Namah Vishnu Bhaktaya Vashine Vividhagama Vedine Vidhistutyaya Vandyaya Virupakshaya Te Namah Varisthaya Garisthaya Vajrankushadharaya Cha Varadabhaya Hastaya Vamanaya Namo Namah Yashtha Patni Sametaya Sreshthaya Mitabhashine Kashtaughanaşakayarya Pushtidaya Namo Namah Stutyaya Stotra Gamyaya Bhakti Vasyaya Bhanave Bhanuputraya Bhavyaya Pavanaya Namo Namah Dhanurmandala Sanstaya Dhanadaya Dhanushmate Tanuprakasa Dehaya Tamasaya Namo Namah Asheshajana Vanjaya Vishesha Phaladayine Vasikrata Janeshaya Pashunam Pataye Namah Khecharaya Khageshaya Ghana Neelambaraya Cha Kathinyamanasayarya Ganastutyaya Te Namah Neelachhatraya Nityaya Nirgunaya Gunatmane Niramayaya Ninjaya Vandaniyaya Te Namah धीराय दिव्यदेहाय दीनार्तिहरणाय च दैन्यनाशकरायार्य जनगण्याय ते नमः क्रूराय क्रूरचेष्टाय कामक्रोधकराय च कलत्रपुत्रशत्रुत्वकारणाय नमो नमः परिपोषितभक्ताय वरभीतिहराय च भक्तसङ्घमनोभीष्टफलदाय नमो नमः. So this is the Sani's 108 name prayer. So these are the options I suggest. So whatever works for you, the small verses you can chant for 15-20 minutes, or you can listen to the Aditya Hridayam maybe 3 times, or listen to Sani's Ashtota Sadanama Stotram a few times, maybe 8 times, depending on the time you have. The more is better, but basically something is better than nothing. So this is what I recommend. By the way, people have been asking me about the Russia-Ukraine situation. I'll be making a video shortly, but don't panic about it. This is not going to... I do expect a war-like situation to develop, but not right now. Sun-Saturn conjunction is more political intrigue and posturing, etc. The real thing may be at the Saturn-Mars conjunction, which is coming at the end of March and April. So there is still time. I'll study in detail and I'll make a video on China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine situation. But for now, focus on this, and for the next couple of weeks, benefit from prayers of Surya and Sani. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. यावत् भूमण्डले सनातनधर्मो वर्धतु. विशेषतः भारतखण्डे, अमेरिकावर्षे, टिबेट् राष्ट्रे च. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you.